And we are live from Strategicon, Game X 2019, and I'm here with many people who've run games. My name is Kimmy, and I am being Stu tonight because Stu's gone, because it is the closing weekend affair, and he's busy and gone. And we are here, and this is our live studio audience. Yay. It's very exciting. We've had a bunch of games run, both on the books and both at Games on Demand, too, which Tomes for Happy Jacks fans, has done an amazing job of building that up and running that at Strategicon this year. It's been amazing. So yeah, let's talk about some games.
Can we start with bad alcohol? Because that feels like a really good tradition.
Yes.
This sounds like a diversion.
Because I heard that Kazay made some shit.
Oh, God.
And that's literally what it says on the label.
It does. It says shit.
So if you have ever owned an Instant Pot,
Is that like the thing you use when you have a cold?
You can make anything in an Instant Pot.
Anything?
Anything. You can say, can you make a cake with an Instant Pot? Yes, you can. Can you bake a steak with an Instant Pot? Yes, you can. And then the question becomes, can you, of course, make wine with an Instant Pot?
No, you can't.
And the answer is troubling. So we tried. We tried very hard. And then we brought it here, or at least we put it into a bottle, and we decided we would try it beforehand. And we realized it wasn't quite good. In fact, I believe the term I've been using is it tastes like Bigfoot's taint. So it's a little yeasty, it's a little sweet, it's a little like there's a lot, So naturally, I texted Dave and I said, hey, we've made really bad wine. And Dave says, all right. And obviously we had to bring it. So we made shit wine.
Yes.
The Malort of Merlot, if you will. Yes.
That's amazing.
And it's aged. It is aged.
I'm not even having any, and I feel sad watching you drink it.
You mean you're not having
this.
any?
Exactly.
All right, so just check that out.
As we're pouring this, hold
We're
on.
going to check the
Don't-
bouquet.
Don't drink it yet, because we want someone to do their amazing con report first. So pour it, and we'll fill the time while.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Don't you have to like double thickness those plastic cups because you want to eat through it?
God.
Is it?
So stand right here, please. This is Eric, and he runs Strategicon.
Thank you. So far, so good? Good. We had an interesting day today, I'll just put it that way. So some good news. We think this still has a shot at being the largest Game X we've ever run.
Yeah!
It's going to be close. Okay. Really close. We're pushing 2,000 right now, but we're not quite there, I don't think, but we're within striking distance of the record's 2,100, so I think we can make it. But anyway, everyone having a good time?
Yeah!
Well, thank you very much for coming out. We can't do it without you, so thank you again. Here you go.
We can't do it without you either. We appreciate you.
I think it's really smart that Eric asked if we were having a good time before we drank this, because afterwards, I don't know.
So do smell the bouquet.
The bouquet has that of a. The bouquet is that of a mildewing possum underneath the bed.
I covered it with my hand just to keep the bouquet.
Wait, the possum
ready
has
for me.
been draped in grape juice.
But no. After I covered it with my hand during our con report, my hand itches. Like, you just have to smell it. You just have to smell it. Just smell it.
Jason's stunt mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's what I've heard about you, Weasel Creature.
All right, so
Weasel
How have I
Creature
not
is
watched
Jason's
this
stunt
before?
mouth.
I'm going to do the play-by-play. I'm going to count to 3, and everybody has to down theirs at the
Oh, my
same
God.
time.
This just smells so bad.
We're doing a podcast tonight.
No, it's fine. You'll
I
be fine.
brought durian to a podcast, and this smells
All right.
bad.
Only I will survive.
So we're getting ready, dear listeners. On the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2,
Oh, God.
3. Oh, God. Their faces. They're so bad. Oh! Oh, Chris might be dead. Chris might have thrown.
I hate you, Dave
Yeah.
Kazay.
It's the worst.
You know, it's not that bad.
Oh God!
It's like grape juice fell into the gutter.
Yeah. It's like a bottle of Manischewitz wine.
I have had
washed
worse.
down a
Oh
gutter.
God!
Yeah.
This is
Oh sweet Jesus!
They're frantically getting out other beverages.
all right. So
Open your fucking coffee!
so Kazay, Dave Kazay, 77. No, I want to know if this is the Malort of
Merlot.
Merlot. It wasn't that bad, so I'm wondering what Malort tastes like.
Oh. I am still scarred from that experience.
I'll help you answer that question because I still have some from the time we did it because no one wants to
No
drink.
one will drink it, and Dave will
Wow.
not throw it away.
That is not good.
All right.
I mean, either I'm already drunk or this isn't that bad.
You know, I'd like to chase it if anybody wants some. There's vegan jerky from the lobby. If
It's
anybody
still
wants some
stuck in my
vegan-
sinuses, Kimmy.
I'm sorry.
It won't
why,
leave.
It
Why
won't
would you
leave.
not
I know.
get vegan jerky when it's available?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try that. 'Cause
Yeah, Bill has brought vegan beef jerky. Or beef, whatever.
All right, I'm going to walk over and force Dave some in this hand.
All right, so why don't we get started on the first game while we're doing the taste testing? So who ran a game on Friday nights? Did anybody run Friday night
I
games?
did.
You did? Then why don't you start? So we're going to start with your game.
Teacher voice came out.
Use your voice. It did. Sorry.
Okay.
So what did you run? And just give us a super quick synopsis of it.
Okay, I'm Chris. I ran my game, The Great American Novel, on Friday night, and we ran it with the trappings of Jaws. I would like to say that the reason I did this was because Dave, my esteemed colleague, insisted that I do so at the last con 3 months ago, and so I did. I put it together. I watched the movie. I read the IMDb. I did a lot of work. Kadave. And suddenly, Kadave said, oh, Dave 77 needed me for, I don't know what, I lost consciousness after that. But
I did too.
in spite of that, it was a Great American Novel is a game that follows the drama of characters, and it was great with Jaws. It was wonderful. I think the party had a great time. The shark came out at the end at the right moment, and it was fun.
Nice. And this is the system that you wrote, and you've talked
Yeah.
about it a couple times.
Yeah. This was Kickstarter. This actually, I'm finishing it now to go
did
to
it.
publication and distribution, and it's a really fun system. I haven't grown tired running it, and I run it a lot because it can handle anything, and
Right.
it's so much fun. So Jaws was worked, and I think that any story that has character drama can work.
How do you find, because it's a system designed to run, like the Great American Novel, that's the name of it.
Yeah.
How do you find running like movies and like stuff like Jaws in comparison to running like The Great Gatsby?
I think that all stories, when focused on characters, are the same story. We don't care about the plot. One of the hallmarks of Great American Novels, it almost doesn't matter what's happening in the background. There was a lot happening in The Great Gatsby, but we didn't care about anything except what the characters were doing to one another, and that's what the game does. So you can have car chases and you can have shark hunts, but what's happening is the drama aboard the boat.
Nice. And did you have people who hadn't played the system yet in your game?
Yes. In fact, there was only one person, I think, at the table that had played. I could be wrong about that, but several of the players weren't used to the sort of narrative control that you have in the game. The game is an exchange using currency of narrative control. You take the story and run it with it as if you are the GM, and we take it back. And it's not even a negotiation like Fate. No, you're paying to do this with your currency. So and once they figured that out, the tokens started flying, and I just got to sit back and watch.
That's awesome. That's the best GM feeling.
Yeah, I like to write games where I don't have to do anything.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's one thing you learned from running it this weekend?
With Jaws, I think the thing that I learned was Great American Novel can work with tension if you're careful. One of the things about the system is that everything's above the board. You know what all the conflicts are. You know what everybody's motivations are, and so it's really hard to have surprises. But if you're following Spielberg style, you really have to have surprises. And so one of the things I was trying to be conscious of, which I think applies to other games, is don't show the shark until the end. If you're running a horror novel or horror game rather, whether it's Great American Novel or not, that's a really good lesson. Don't show the, and I'm glad I waited, and I did until the very last moment. It was a wonderful moment, and it was worth the wait.
That's what makes the shark so good in that movie.
That was it.
Now, you said that they had more narrative control than they're used to. How does that work with doing the story of Jaws or something that we already kind of know the story of? Do they get to go, like, how do you kind of navigate? Do they get to go off and do whatever they want? Do they need to stay to the script? What do they do in Great American Novel?
No, there was actually a moment where we had to discuss the script, but we are playing the trappings of Jaws. That doesn't mean we're playing Jaws. So we have our own characters, but the conflicts come out of the actual interactions in the game. So there was a moment where we had to sit back and say, wait. We're about to go into the threshold. If you do this move, we're going to go into the threshold. But that threshold is talking about the cover-up that the city does, saying these are boating accidents, and there's a celebration coming, and there isn't a shark. And that's a completely different story. Do you want to do that, or do you want to continue down this track and do another crossing of the threshold later where it's more about the shark? And we had to have that discussion at the table, our character, and everybody's like, yeah, we want the shark. So we bypassed that and went on to the shark, and it was a negotiation, but it worked.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add about that?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Oh, Dave.
It was an engaging enough game that it survived me dressed all in super bright canary yellow with a crown of Muppet fur, leaning into the boardroom and singing Spanish Ladies mid-game. And everybody, like, there were people around the table there, they didn't know me at all. Like, it wasn't people that, and they're like, what? And then he just starts laughing, and I'm like, and I just left, and they were like, what just happened?
I said,
But
never
I
mind.
didn't derail it.
Inside joke. It's okay. Yeah, I went in because I saw you, and I wanted to voyeur see the game, and then I sat down and I realized I didn't know very many people at the table, which is kind of weird for our games. And I was like, oh, I feel creepy. I'm gonna sit here for a second so it's not weird that I'm leaving right away, and then I'm gonna leave. But it was very cool.
I didn't even notice you were there. That's hilarious.
Just for a few minutes. Very cool. You ran Friday night, right, Dave? What did you run? And tell us a short summary of it.
Oh, I ran Space 1989, and Space 1989 is a playtest of our next game because we just finished our Kickstarter on Friday, so obviously we needed to do something brand new.
Woohoo!
And so this was 88 minds around 44 women. And we have some players here, actually. Dave actually reprised his character, which was the king of everything yellow. And I'll just pass it on.
That explains why I was wearing a crown of canary yellow Muppet fur.
I just want you to wander around the halls like, has anybody seen my little curious monkey?
Yeah. But no, as with many games I encounter with Dave at the helm, it's weird, man. It's a weird game. We had a lot of fun. Everybody around the table, we spent most of the time laughing and coming up with the worst possible solutions to every, there's a problem. Cool. But I have to say my favorite thing in the game was, and this organically sort of came about, and I loved it, was we decided to purchase for our spaceship an autopilot.
What was the name of the ship?
What was the name of the ship?
The Sharona. My bad.
Whose was it?
It was mine. It's mine. Oh my God! It was my Sharona.
I get that reference.
I forgot. So then I don't know who came up at the table with the idea of it was an autopilot run by a fungus. So it wasn't a computer. You did the fungus. All right. Yeah. All right.
Let the record show as Rob Hebert
Yes.
that raised his hand.
That's where this wine came from. Got it.
So then Dave took that and he's like, yeah, okay. So it's a fungus that runs the ship for you guys. All right. And then we did something and he's like, the fungus smells gratitude at you. And we were like, And then we all thought, oh, yeah, but that's awesome. Like, it was horrifying for a moment, and then we're like, oh, yeah, I guess that's how it would communicate with us. Ooh, it's musty thankfulness. But we had a great time, as always, and I got to wear my yellow outfit, so I'm in. Anybody else want to talk about the game?
I actually want to talk
Oh.
with Dave real quick, and then
yeah.
we can get to the players.
Yeah, sure.
So is this the first time you've run this?
No, I ran it twice before, but 2 cons ago. Actually, 3 times, but 2 here. And the first time was Big Trouble in Little Jupiter, and that was when we had the King of Everything Yellow first make his appearance, and you were riding around in the Heart of Glass. And that was when we had everybody come in costume, except for one guy who had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Randomly signed up at the con, yeah.
It's like, why is this guy dressed in yellow? Why is Chris in a nun's habit? Which doesn't surprise anybody that Chris would have a nun's habit.
Of course not.
You know, and other people, yeah, it was.
What was her character?
Oh, her character was Sister Christian, of course. You know.
So as you've been running these different iterations, what are some of have you been making changes to the game based on the playing?
Why are you moving the wine towards me?
I was moving it away from me.
Because he
it's
doesn't
your-
like you.
It's your fault.
Do you want some more vegan jerky, Dave? Who the hell said they wanted vegan jerky? You are a sick man. Come up.
Let the
And
record
here-
show as Weasel Creature.
By the way, this smells like a mix of bouillon and dog food. So please enjoy. And I'm being gracious. Oh God! Wow! I feel like a.
So Bill just fed. Yeah, that's weird. All right, back to my question, Dave.
A couple. There were
licked
some
my
new
finger.
characters that were actually introduced for the first time, or at least certain types. For instance, we had a medic who I'm going to bring up right now. Our bad boy medic, Dr. Feelgood, and I'm going to let him come on up and explain himself. Go, please.
Yay!
Dr. Feelgood.
What's your name and who makes you famous? And what makes you famous?
Who makes you famous?
mean-
That's a better question.
That's a better question too.
Who makes you
There you
famous?
go. Thanks.
My name is Rob, and I played. I'm famous for playing Dr. Kajagugu,
Right.
who is the lovable but eccentric medic on the Sharona.
Who looks quite a bit like Nikki Sixx.
Right. Well, the picture though is like a black and white printout of Nikki Sixx, and so it's about the size of a quarter on the sheet. So I saw it, and it looked like Kajagugu. You know that band from like the '80s, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah. And so I was like, okay. And then, but also like Noel Fielding from Mighty Boosh playing Kajagugu. So that's of course what my character became. And there was a little bit of some like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde vibe going on. There's a lot of things, a lot of ingredients in an instant pot.
What was your What was your weapon of choice?
The syringe.
A syringe. No, the syringe. The
Oh yeah, the organ grinder. Yes, yes.
which was like a old time machine gun, but it fired
Like a
syringes.
howitzer,
Right.
howitzer that would shoot syringes out. Yeah, you get it. You get it.
That's a nightmare. You just described a nightmare.
Yeah.
That is a nightmare. Yeah. Plus, that's what you always want in the hands of a doctor, something called an organ grinder. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
Oh, nobody said he was a good doctor. That was never part of the character sheet or the concept.
It was an honorary PhD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's your PhD. Please leave.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, it was awesome. It was really fun, and I got to ask somebody to let me lick their sphere, demand that I lick their sphere, and it was great. It was super gonzo. It was a super gonzo gaming session. It was a tons of fun. It was perfect for a Friday night.
And we also had a former member of Starfleet that was part of the game. I think he should come up and explain himself.
Wait, I have some questions real quick first. Wait. So you've been on our podcast a bunch of times. So I know you play a lot of like newer systems, things like that. So what were just some of your impressions of the system, like having played it when it's still kind of in its young iterations?
Yeah, I thought that the thing that it had going for it that was really awesome was the system is, if you've ever played any PBTA stuff, you can pick it up really easily. And so whenever a game uses a system that we're familiar with like that, it really comes down to the playbooks and how good those playbooks are at establishing tone, which this definitely did. I mean, it looked like a VHS cover, so like it definitely establishes a tone right there, and then also just the kind of language that they use in the moves and stuff. So it did a great job of like I knew exactly how to play this character as soon as I saw this sheet, and I was down.
Fantastic. All right, sorry. How dare I actually?
May I say you have some gorgeous hair, sir? Just so you know.
Yes, seconded.
Like, wow. And from behind, where I'm used to seeing men's hair, it looks really good there, too. Kind of barber shop or something.
Or something. So, what's your name and what makes you famous? Or who? Whatever.
My name is Aaron, and I read a book about somebody who was famous once.
Nice.
Like 3/4 of the book. So I played Lieutenant Redshirt, who the text is an excellent example of how tight on theme the whole game was, because it gave me a short paragraph of what this guy was about, and I immediately understood that this is the red shirt, who realized that everyone who wears a red shirt dies on all of those missions, and so it's time not to be that guy. So he just left. He just left Starfleet. And it occurred to me that, like TNG, they always have the onesies on, at least in the first couple of seasons, and how hilarious would it be if they didn't have zippers? So he just wore that all the time. He couldn't get it off. And so to conceal his history, he had just taken duct tape and put it over the top of his communicator, and he raided the weapons locker, and he was like, "I'm out. I'm doing something else." And he hooked up with the king of everything yellow, and thus was his story. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I'd never really played a PBTA before, and that was so tight on theme, like I didn't have to think about it. It just went super smooth. It was great.
Since we tend to play a lot of PBTA and you hadn't done it before, what were your kind of like the dice mechanics and stuff like that? Had you played games before where you'd had that much narrative control of what happened?
No, I run a lot of games usually, and I listen to a lot of your guys' games, so I didn't really have to think about it. Like, listening to such good games, played over so many years is just sort of like, oh, yeah, okay, right, 2d6, okay, well, I mean.
Dave just asked
That
me
seems
if
easy.
you guys had rolled dice at any point during the game.
Oh, yeah, I rolled dice like 3 times.
Right, and I believe it was when you were setting the Circle Pie convenience store on fire.
I did not set it on fire. I was shooting the guy that set it on fire.
You're sounding a little defensive.
No.
A little.
No, I just stole the Slim Jims.
It's getting worse.
No.
See, this sounds bad. I admit that. Hi, Paul. And then it's like, in context, it made perfect sense for them to shoot.
I don't think it did.
No.
Oh, to shoot him, yes. Everything leading up to the murder.
As God is my witness, I thought it was set to stun, Captain.
Well, what was interesting about that is it was a Starfleet character, right? And Starfleet is just all about ethics and doing the right thing. And I was like, this is the guy that left. I'm going to do everything a Starfleet guy is not going to do. So I shot him in the back. But that was before I was like, I'm leaving this room before it gets violent because I don't want to be in here because I'll die. So yeah, I shot him in the back. I was trying to steal from cultists. Cultists?
No, they were
The afflicted. Right. Sorry.
Cultists?
Sorry.
Celtics?
I mean,
something.
At the end of the day, they're all cultists, right? Yeah. So the game went spectacular, and it was very fun.
Actually, getting back to a question you asked, Kimmy, is that about certain changes that have come up about the game as we test it, and I've realized. So, actually, and this is more for Bill because Bill is like the sci-fi RPG expert. So one of the things is that everybody builds the ship together, and you decide the extras. And so I've realized that no matter what I put on the sheets, they're going to say the first thing they add will be a bar.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
So I don't even question anymore. I say
No.
you will have your bar, and then you tell me what the bar looks like.
Right, it's all customization at that point.
Right.
Sure.
And so their bar was a a tiki tea pool bar, and the whole pool is the bar. You have to swim up to the bar.
Wow.
In the ship.
Yeah.
The best part is what happens if the I'm assuming obviously there's like gravity plates or something, right? If those ever get damaged, that is a straight up
power
aquatic
fires.
shit show, right? Of water everywhere, which is super good for components out of a ship. That's like a gift to the GM.
But-
you want a giant pool in the middle of your ship?
fungi
Yes.
autopilots love water floating around.
Oh heck yeah!
And it would smell its gravity.
I'm gonna just tell people I smell their gratitude because I like that. I smell your gratitude.
You didn't say it, but I smell it.
Right? Yeah. You don't have to say it. Ah, there it is.
It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
No.
I have one more question for you, Dave. So you do a ton of PBTA, and you've done a bunch of awesome, really, really great systems. We're going to talk about more of them later.
Are you going to talk about the Kickstarter that we just
Oh my
did
God!
at a
It's
town
over.
called
Jesus,
Mount-
shut up.
Really wasn't PBTA,
Fuck.
if we're being honest.
Okay, no, but we can talk about that again later. But I
A
want
town called Shut Up, Dave.
I grew up in that.
But
I know. Actually, I got two guys right here who I went to high school with saying, yeah, we grew up in the town of Shut Up, Dave. They really did. They know. Hey, where are we? Shut up, Dave. That's where it is.
But I want to like both people who just played that game talked about how easy it was for them to pick up those playbooks and figure it out, and anyone who's played PBTA knows like how important naming those moves and things are. How many iterations of that generally do you go through? Does it, like, especially for this game? Yes, I'm asking real questions. I'm sorry.
Well, get that out of my face, sir. Steady.
Would have been $1 for every time I heard that.
Steady. Actually, part of it is me trying to pull back and not be too kind of on the nose and silly with some of the names of the moves, because I tend to make them up based off of, at least for Space 1989, after 80s band or 80s songs.
Yeah.
So I'll let Dave explain some of his moves. As king of everything yellow. Can you name one? Sharp dressed man?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's one.
Well done.
So,
How are you going to be my Ed McMahon?
listen. Hi-oh. You're the funny one, and I sit on the couch. So I
I'm
thought
gonna-
we had an arrangement.
I want to tag into that because we have another person who's written a great PBTA game, which is Jason.
Yes.
Right. And I love in Demigods, like being a listener and having played. And I think Kimmy brought up a great point: is that what the moves are called sets so much of the tone and helps you as a player. So how many iterations did you go through? How much did you think about that stuff?
We're not on Saturday yet.
Fine. Sorry for trying to make you a relevant part of the conversation.
I went through several versions. There's a real like, it's an occasionally agonizing, like a bunch of them will just come out like, oh yeah, this is the perfect name, and then agonize over 15 versions of one word in a move, and
And then fucking Tappy shows up and is like polyamory,
yeah,
and you're like,
like the best named move in my game wasn't named by me, and that's fine. He knows he's great.
hashtag blessed is awesome.
Just ask him.
I could add.
Hi-yo.
He's not here. We can't ask him. It's
I
fine.
could add on Happiest Apocalypse on Earth. The names of the moves were extremely thematic because we are in not the park we're all thinking about, but our park of our own design, Mouse Park. But I did put in every single move name an homage to Disney movies, and if you know what you're talking about, you'll see them. That also caused a lot of confusion for gameplay. And if I had to do it again, I would love to continue to say that I had the cojones to do it, but I would probably not, because in gameplay, it's a little impractical. And maybe that's what Mr. 77 is saying.
I was saying balls.
Were you translating? So cojones, what is that? Like balls.
balls.
I got nothing.
All right. No, it's okay. So now you get the golden question. Like, what is the one thing you learned from running that game on Friday?
Oh.
Talking to the microphone. Talking to the microphone.
Oh, actually, I can't answer this question. So, hey, Bill, I just finished a Kickstarter.
Did you?
I did.
Good God.
And it ended Friday morning, and on Friday afternoon, I realized I needed to write an adventure for
Damn stretch goals. Screw success.
for the evening. And so I agonized over whether or not I had written enough information for an adventure, and I was actually tempted to just say no, I'm going to do something else or whatever. Maybe I'll just go purchase like the PDF for the new Aliens game and run it before Dave did. And so I went in there with probably about a quarter of what I would normally write in, and what didn't even matter. The moment they lit the place on fire is when I realized there's no script here. They're just gonna like party around, steal Slim Jims. I don't need to be involved in this. I'm just here to make sure that they clean up their trash on the table after they leave. And nobody puts their lips against something they shouldn't. That's the only reason I'm there for the game.
Who's really to say what they shouldn't put their lips against, though? Really? Puritan.
No means
Who
no.
invited this Bill guy?
So says the game, didn't you just hear that somebody got demanded? I'm gonna lick your sphere.
Yeah. I guess that's if it's consensual sphere licking. How did I ever not think I would say that in my life?
All right, very good. Any other Friday?
These games are available through Monkey Fun Studios, might I add.
Did you run on Friday? Oh, come talk to
Holmes ran a game on
some love.
What?
So Tomer is busy running Games on Demand right now, but this guy you may not have heard of, Jim, who may be awesome and in a bunch of my games right now.
Jim Sandoval.
He played in one of the games.
Sábado.
So tell us what did Tomes run, and tell us about it.
Well, Tomes ran a game called Space Station Phobolex using the Starcross system. And if you never heard of the Starcross system, it's a lot like Dread is a horror game using Jenga. This is a game about romance using Jenga. Starcrossed.
Written by who?
I do not remember.
Alex
Cross.
Roberts.
There you go, Alex Roberts.
Alex Roberts.
So there are a lot of really interesting things that Tomes did when he ran this game. Starting off, what he did was he squared off the room and said, to the right side, whoever wants to play a more serious game, stand over that side. To the left side, if you want to play a more comical game or a silly game, go ahead and stand on that side. Over on that direction, if you want to have more like R-rated sexy times in the romance, go ahead and stand over there. If you want it more sort of like, ABC family romance, just go over to that section. So everybody sort of just stood where they felt comfortable thematically on the way that they wanted to do the thing. And the two people that stood closest to each other in each section were paired off. So he automatically created a situation where everybody would be comfortable with the tone of a romantic game, which can be very difficult sometimes, especially when you're dealing with all ages and you're dealing with people that might be uncomfortable or may feel creeped out by some things. Anyways, we all paired off, and there were 4 individual couples, so 8 of us, and it was a persistent universe. Everybody was in that space station at that time. And he came up with a huge list of these little stickers that had different character concepts or types. I picked the dashing space pirate captain, and my partner ended up picking the logical business droid. And that was basically our romance. And since I was an alien and she was a robot, we both decided that we would be they thems. So we chose no gender for either character, and then proceeded on producing the romance that took place.
I hate to interrupt him, but that is so funny because that's exactly what our couple did in that game.
Oh, really?
I was an alien, and they were a robot. We were all they. and we had a romance. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy? That's
yeah,
funny.
It's really cool. And also on top of that, the way that the game worked is that you had a list of 1 through 8 things, and you divvied up into into two classes of people. One was the lead, and one was the follow. So the lead would be responsible for framing the opening of every scene, and the follow would decide where the scene ended every scene. And the lead would be able to do moves that would intentionally touch somebody or intentionally reveal something about their past, while the follow would unintentionally reveal things and unintentionally touch. So it turned into a situation where, I wasn't really being very aggressive as far as pursuing a romance, but I was treating the robot as if I was treating another living being, and I would basically just grab their hand to have emphasis when I wanted them to follow. First thing I intentional touch, I just grabbed her hands and said, "We got to go over here and take care of this thing." And the way that my partner played it was awesome, because it was just like this robot trying to figure out what emotions were. And so when we touched, it was like there's like this little electronic spark between us, and her cold hand began to warm up, and that warm sensation sort of like ended up informing a lot of things about the way that she was. And the way that we touched and the contact between us was really kind of weirdly very intimate but innocent at the same time. So it really did like a really cool little like nifty romance.
That doesn't. Wait. So how does Jenga fit into that?
Oh yeah, right.
So the cool thing about this is what
Jenga fits into every game, because Jenga fucking rules, Kimmy.
I didn't know Bill was that. I didn't know Bill was that pro Jenga.
Oh my God! Wait, I text Sam right now. Sam, Kimmy is Jenga curious. Hang on. Wait, go.
So.
I really think you're playing the game differently than the rest of us, kids.
So if you've ever played Dread,
I'm curious to learn.
Yeah, if you've ever.
As long as there's consent, it's okay.
Yes, consent is necessary. We've discussed this. I'm not pointing at Paul. I'm pointing at the guy behind Paul. Paul's a lawyer. He always gets consent in triplicate. So if
I'm sorry, Paul. I shouldn't drag you into this.
That's all right. He's billing you every minute, so it's fine.
If you've ever played Dread, which is basically a horror game that uses Jenga, the Jenga tower is basically a tension building mechanic. So every time you do something significant for the plot, you would basically play Jenga and remove a block and put it back on top as if you would normally play. Another additional thing in this game is that whenever you wanted to say something was describe the scene or anything like that, you didn't have to pay or do anything. But whenever you actually interacted with the other character, you had to at least have a finger on the Jenga tower.
I have to add that that's why our tower fell.
Yeah.
They were talking. And the whole thing went to hell because of that.
Because of that. And no, we were at the very end when we ended up, and I just put the thing at the very top, and the thing topped. It was like, and we actually played it out to the very end, so it was really cool. But and in Dread, you die when the tower falls. But in this game, you actually succumb to your passion for each other when the Jenga tower falls. But when you generate your character, you generate a reason why you're attractive. Then you hand your sheet over to the other person, and they give you 2 reasons why you're attractive, but you don't know that you are. And then you hand the sheet back, and then you figure out, why can't you be in love with this person? What's barring you from pursuing this romance? And so since I was a pirate captain, I'm like, I'm a commitment phobe. That's why I can't enter this. And what did she have? She goes, love is illogical. I do not understand the question. And then whenever something happened in the plot that we made true that affected the space station in general, we had to tell Tomes, and then Tomes would go over the loudspeaker of the space station and sort of interpret what happens with that in the entire space station. And there were 3 times that he made an announcement, and it fit so well with what we were doing that we just said, that's end scene. That's perfect. So whatever everybody else was doing in the table very subtly informed what you were doing at your table, even though you weren't generally interacting with the other players.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Jim.
I have to add one thing about. He deserves applause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And may I say, you look really sexy in that hat, too, Jim.
that's
Especially the
very
back of the
dapper.
hat.
That's all true.
Which is, right, yeah. And
I-
ducks.
I just want to add, I think that Starcrossed is the most elegant implementation of the thing that is usually the most uncomfortable for people to do in an RPG, and it's the only thing you do in the game, and it's incredibly just elegantly done, and I think she deserves incredible credit for that. Like,
That's awesome.
It's incredible.
I'd like to add to that because this is the thing I don't want to do ever is romance in games. I do not. It's usually a veil, if not a line. And the person that I was playing this game with was somebody I never met before, never seen before. It was a horribly awkward experience, but once we started following the rules, it really fell into place. It worked. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
going to second that.
I do want to ask Jason for a second. I know on Friday night you played on stream with us with Tomes running Trophy.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you were there, right?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to talk? Trophy we haven't had that run on stream before. So will you talk a little bit about that very interesting and cool system?
Yeah, so Trophy, you get like a little like index card worth of character sheet, and you're going out into some version of wilderness to reap treasure, right? But you're like the conceit of the game is you're not going to make it back, right? You're going to get killed. You're going to go lose your mind. Like something's going to happen, and
So it's like 10 Candles or Call of Cthulhu, where you're like, this isn't going to have a happy ending.
right. And I thought, okay, 10 Candles, maybe that was lightning in a bottle. I don't know if this is going to build the tension, but once again, we found ourselves with this glimmer of hope of like, oh, we can make this work. This is going to work. We're going to do it. And we did not. And it was tragic and devastating and fantastic. Like, it was just, and I mean, also, you have to give credit to Tomer. In a situation like that, like somebody who can escort you through like a tense situation like that, then Tomer's going to.
like 10 Candles where he's like your counselor and advisor and helping you through?
He was actually, he was laying out a little bit more than I think the 10 Candles runner does. In Trophy, he had a little bit more of a GM role. But it was still, there was a lot of sort of group decision making and yeah. I thought it was really well balanced.
Can you just do a super brief thing of the mechanics? Like, how does it work? Does it have dice, etc.?
That's a good question.
It was so engaging, I don't remember.
Okay, I remember now. So you have a number of things that are just like you get like 3 or 4 skills, right? This is your skill. It's weapons. Oh, okay, that's your skill. Lore, things. And when you want to do something, you can roll 1 die if you want. There's light dice and dark dice. And roll a light die. If you get 4, 5, or 6, you do it. 4 or 5 is a weighted success. So, I don't know. Is the stage stable? What's happening over there?
Fine.
All right.
It's fine.
Okay.
More alcohol's happening. You're okay.
Great. Okay. Just hearing noises.
I'm sorry. Diet Coke is happening. What is happening? You're shamed, Dave. Shame.
So you, in a not tense situation, you just roll 1 die and see what you get. You could buy a second light die with a Devil's Bargain, which he would, offer something horrible for us to choose from. You didn't have to. But then if you were doing something that was tense or you could bend your brain or get hurt, you added a dark die to it. And you rolled your light die and your dark die. And if the dark die, you could get a success with the dark die, but if the dark die is higher than the light die, bad things happen. And that built a lot of tension, more than I thought it would. I thought, oh, this is just a couple dice. I know how this works, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that you could roll a die, it didn't work. I'm going to add a dark die to my pool and roll again. And you could do that as many times as you want. Surprisingly tense. And we told a really fun, scary story. Someone else is here who played and might have interesting things to say. And remember more than I can.
Well, I do want to ask real quick about the mechanics. I'm interested in that. Does that sort of do the hard move kind of thing when the dark die is too high?
Yeah, it's basically like if you fail the roll without a dark die, or the dark die is lower than your failed die, then yeah, you just whiff, and something happens, right? It's always that moving forward narrative. But yeah, if the dark die is higher, fail or pass, bad things happen, and it could be an injury, it could be you losing your mind a little bit, and you have this ruin track that goes to 6, and if you roll higher than your ruin, I think. Yes. Yeah, if you roll higher than your ruin goes up. So the first few times, it definitely goes up, and then you get to 3, 4, 5, and then suddenly this tension is, yeah.
Nice. I'm so excited to see you. Who are you and why are you famous?
My name is Jessica, and online
Heavy Metal Jazz!
And yeah. Yeah, so I played
There's obviously no reason why she's famous. Everybody freaks out, right? So.
And I listened to the podcast for a really long time, and Stork tells everybody every time he sees my name anywhere.
Stork repeats himself.
Stork's just happy you haven't told him to off yet. It's fine.
Yeah. I think one of the really cool things about the Ruin track, we all played it really well. Like, Jason was like nothing. He didn't have like any the whole time. But
in your face, Mills!
As we started to get more and more Ruin, people started to accept the oddity of the world we had created a lot more. So there was kind of this like Lovecraftian, otherworldly dreamscape kind of aspect. Is that how you would describe it? Yeah. To our game world? And as Ruin got higher and higher, I just kind of leaned into it. I was like, oh yeah, I can now totally walk through walls. It's no big deal. Mm-hmm. Or I'll hit somebody in the face with a wall. That's also fine. And it just worked really well in building the tension, because once you start getting in that 3 and 4 range for Ruin, and you know that the world is going to start taking over a little bit of your agency, you're like, screw that. I'm not any more dice to this pool. I'll fail. It's fine. I'm good with that.
Awesome, very cool. Anything else you guys want to say about that particular game? I was excited. I've wanted to play Trophy for like a while now, and I just keep like missing just slightly. Tome's running it. It's a bummer.
I would say it was a really good example of seeing a group of people combine thoughts and build a world together. It's worth going back and listening to the recording, because it was just a really cool example of Tomes setting something up, just lobbing it, and then everyone at the table taking their turn to spike it. And
nice.
Just like, it was really cool to watch. I want to go back and listen to it just because, like, not anything I did. It was just rad to be in the room.
Nice. That's awesome. Very cool.
I think everybody played off of each other really well. Nobody ever kind of was like, oh, your stupid thing is lame. We did end up with some shoes that we had to X card some shoes. But other than that,
Wait.
That's why you have X cards.
Whoa,
Shoes.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Do not ask.
Yeah.
Do not ask. It was X carded. Do not ask.
You can watch the stream and see why the shoes had to get X carded.
I'm really fascinated by it. And it sounds like Trophy fits in this thing. A game that starts with the premise that you will fail by the end, like Fiasco, 10 Candles, right? That idea, because any of those games I played in, I feel like it just completely frees me as a player to be like, oh, whatever I'm going to do is just to the service of the story, because it doesn't matter in the end. Like, I want to try to have something good, but like there was a game we tried to record a few years ago that then we had a problem with the recording, but we did a Fiasco game. And I played a character who was lame, and Stork's character was basically the snake oil salesman who was getting everything I owned because he was going to cure me. And it was very evident by the end of that, my tale was going to end with him killing me somewhere because of information I had. And I was like, that is going to be the coolest story ever. But I was bought in from minute one that this is going to end horribly, and that's going to be an amazing story.
Do you feel that way about Call of Cthulhu?
I do feel that way about Call of Cthulhu. I want it, but I want to fight the madness. But the fact that I know it's probably just going to lead there at some point.
What about Paranoia?
Well, Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, Paranoia is the best because Paranoia has the safety valve of clones, right? So you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna try really hard with friend computer, right? But I know that if I stray outside of whatever it is friend computer wants me to be doing, like my game is not over. I've just like turned a page in that. It's almost like Darkest Dungeon. If you ever played that video game, where it's like. That for me took a while of playing that game to realize, oh, my characters are actually just my economy, right?
Okay.
Like I'm gonna get attached to them, but they're gonna go insane and they're gonna die, and then that just furthers the story. So like I'm very fascinated by games that take that into account as part of their mechanics.
Yeah, I think Call of Cthulhu's designed to have a slower burn on that too.
Yeah, it takes you a lot longer to get
Yeah.
there.
The
right?
slower the burn, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Awesome. All right, I think that's Friday. So now on to Saturday morning.
I think that's
Bill
me.
ran a game.
Woo, I ran a
Yay!
game.
What'd you run? And give us a small summary of it.
Just a small summary. So when we were deciding who was going to run what, I knew I wanted to run sci-fi because I love running sci-fi. But I made the conscious decision not to run Star Wars, because I always run a Star Wars thing. And then I noticed everybody else was running a Star Wars thing. I was like, oh my God, why did I decide? But I wanted to run Traveler because I love Traveler. I think the Mongoose version is great. And 2.0 is a really nice version of it. So I ran that, and I ran it in more of a, not the actual Traveler timeline, but something more akin to that. The amount of prep I did is actually on my phone in Word. I showed Jason. It barely scrolls past the thing. It's literally like, I don't know, con Traveler game. It's like, here's the name of the transport. Here's a little bit of thing.
Did you do it on the plane?
I did do it on the flight over, yes. I
And
did it
what
on
about
plane.
the game?
I did. I joined the Mile High Game Developer Club. It was awesome. In the plane. And basically, what the idea that I had is one of the things that Elspeth and I are working on with our upcoming creative company, Dave, is to do
Your creative company, Dave?
Yeah, Dave. It's right, and because everybody knows that name, so like, "Oh, shut the fuck up, Dave." So like, "Oh,
Damn
great,
right
everybody knows
they
the
know
name
that
already."
name.
Is this idea of whenever you're running a game or you're at a con or you need NPCs or you need a thing like having this idea of like prepackaged characters, right? So we're like basically writing all these Travelers characters that come in like sets of 6 that all have similar backgrounds, that types of thing. And so I've been doing a ton of character gen, which I also just love to do. And so the idea was I want to have a very short character gen session to hopefully show like how Traveler character gen works, because it's simple but it's nuanced. It's got a lot of little fiddly bits in it. And one of the parts of character gen that gets commonly overlooked in Traveler, I think, is pre-career education. So either going to university or military academy. So the whole idea for the game was let's do your basic stats, all your basic characteristics, your initial skills, and then you are either going to try to go into university or military academy. So everybody did that. I had 3 players. One of them successfully got into military academy. The other 2 tried and failed. One of them went into the draft and got drafted by a different branch of the military, which was hilarious because they got drafted by the Navy, which all of their skills basically to go through their career paths require intelligence, and his intelligence was a 2. Out of 2 to 12, yes. So like, yeah, pretty much, yeah. It was great. It was Tim Cox who rolled that, and he had an 11 strength and a 2 intelligence and a 2 soc. It was awesome. And I offered the group the house rule of, if you want, everybody can have 3 bennies to use to change die rolls. And they were like, no, we're not going to do it. And then they all apologized to Tim afterwards. We're really sorry. We probably should have done that. Because, boy, he was strong, but like stupid as a stone, except that insults stones. He's like really dumb. But it was great. Great for the character and the concept. So it was really interesting by the end. They went through one term of that, so they got to 22 years old. And then my premise for the game was one of the things in Traveler that happens a lot is when you're going through character gen, you'll have like an event that happens. And there are always things like, while on a mission, your ship is shot down, and then you make rolls and kind of things, right? So it's like, I want to make a scenario that is basically a thing that would be like that. So they were all, even though they had, and so it had to be very fluid and have a lot of modular parts, which is why I had like an absolute minimum of prep. I just knew what the outline was to get there. They were all on a transport going from Terra to basically a combined armed forces deployment center. And everything that happened in the games, the alien race that Earth is at war against, what was happening there, everything was all generated out of the very brief character gen we did. Because we had one basically 4-year phase, right? One round of it. And it was awesome. And it's the thing that I love the most about Traveler, and was that with just doing basically an hour's worth of character gen, is about how long it took, that not only set up what we did for the rest of the game, but it was like, I've got a whole campaign's worth of stuff here to do. And the thing that I like to do, and I've done with Grimm a bunch, is have characters and then run them, like little franchising and doing that. So by the time we got to the end of the scenario, we were at a point where it's like, oh, wow, this is like a fully fleshed out group that now has a reason you're all together. So welcome to my next franchise of stuff that I'll run. I'm just going to like write these characters up, and they're my pre-gens moving on forward. But it was really cool. So it was, I think it worked really well to keep it really open and then go wherever the characters took me.
Nice. Had any of your players played Traveler before?
I had Gina and Tim and Oscar. Like you all know who that is because they've been on tons of shows and stuff. I think Gina had at least had done character gen. I don't. It was funny. Oscar had, but I don't think he's played since maybe the mid '80s.
Right.
And we came to the amazing realization during while we were playing that 1977 is actually when Traveler was first published. And it's like
fine year.
A fine year. Star Wars.
That's the year Star Wars,
all
and the
good
year
things.
that Christopher Gray was born.
That's right. Every great thing. Every great thing.
And Jason.
All right, so except for one thing, all great things in 70. It was something else, not you, Jason. Like there's some other bad thing.
I heard
So-
my
Apocalypse
wife
Now.
admonish me with a whisper from the audience, and they immediately went, "What the hell?"
But yeah, so that was actually like it was really cool. Definitely, I don't think Tim had ever played, and there are people that definitely hadn't played in quite a long time. But that system is so simple, right? It's 2 dice. Once you get in the mechanics of the die rolls, target number, 2 dice, modifiers, it's really easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's one thing you learned running it?
I think the thing that I maybe relearned because I've done so much Traveler, but is the power of putting agency of world generation into your players' hands.
Putting
Like,
agency?
yeah, putting the agency into their hand. Yes, not taking away from them,
No, I'm
but
saying pudding agency.
pudding. What did I say?
Butterscotch.
Like the D's? Yeah, pudding. Yeah, like a dessert.
Pudding
a delicious
agency
dessert
is very
you choose. Putting the agency into their hands, because I had no concept other than there was some conflict, and in my mind originally their transport was going to get shot down, and that was going to be like the tension, and the last part of the game would be them struggling to survive. That's not what we ended up doing, but the thing that came out of that was like the entire race they were at war with, why they decided that they were a lower tech level. So that became this, actually by the end of the game, this really interesting like ethical decision they had to come to. They're like, wow, we're tech level 12, which means like interstellar space flight and everything. They're tech level 8, which is basically like Earth today. And it's like, we're going in there with like a whole like colonization and guns mentality. Is that okay? Right? And so they, in looking at that and questioning the ethics of that, is when they, like, we built that as the world as we're going through, and they had to make the decision, are we going to be okay with that? And they decided not to be okay with it, and actually devised a way to completely sabotage the mission that they were being forced into, to then now basically like, no, we're going to support this other race that basically like the military we've been a part of is against. So it was really fascinating, and that was all them. Right, there's great portions of it I was along for the ride, and I think that's a lot of systems do that. It's one of the things I love about Traveler is it really enables you as a GM to just take what the players are giving you and start just funneling it into the world that you're all building together.
That's fantastic. Who are? Oh, 1 second. Who are you, and why are you up here? And why are you famous?
I am Weasel Creature. I am famous for my monkey joke, but I am up here specifically.
My monkey. Because I know the joke. Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm here specifically for Traveler at a Con, and as someone inspired by your Star Wars mod, I am currently playtesting my own little Traveler, much lesser mod than what you fucking did. That was crazy. But as far as Traveler at a Con goes and character generation goes, I was taking Declan out to pee. He's 8. Don't worry. So it sounded like your character generation was somewhat limited. Currently, what I was thinking of doing was like a 3-term limit of character gen, and then making up a game depending on what they came up with. How is that? Is that relatively feasible, or was your more limited character gen a little more applicable for a con game?
Yeah, so I having tried this before, specifically with the Star Wars Traveler version, where I was like, it's great, we'll roll up characters, and then with the time left, we will have an adventure. And we got to hour 3, and everybody's like, oh, this is way too much fun. Screw your adventure. Let's finish writing our characters, which was amazing. The best of which was that Kurt was writing. He took the entertainer path, and so he made a jizz whaler because
Jizz.
Yeah, because hilarity.
Kurt and Jizz,
yeah.
right? Kurt.
And it was great because at the end of every 4 years, he then would come up with the name of his album that his character released to encapsulate that 4 years. That were all, of course, like, horrible.
Jizz puns.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody. Yeah. So
the
anyway,
White Album.
Yeah, the White Album was the best one. But. So what we found is that because the character
Was there the It Smells Like Bleach album?
It smells like bleach. Yeah, it smells like, instead of Teen Spirit, yeah, it smells like teen sock drawer. But the thing I found is that, like, because I'll explain it to you later, Dave. The character generation, like, is really engaging, right? And basically you can get to the point where you're like, wow, that was super fun. We actually never did anything. So this time, trying to learn from the one I did before, I was like, I'm going to have a very limited amount of time. And because I've been doing a ton of character gen, I figured with up to 4 players, like 3 to 4 players, it will take about an hour to go through character gen, like the initial generation, and then 1 term. And it took 58 minutes to do one term. Yeah, because you're doing initial character stats. You're doing your initial, what you're based off your education thing, and then you go through 1 term. And now, granted, I tried to also, for hopefully the benefit of people watching that have never played Traveler, I was explaining a lot as to why we're doing that and trying as hard as I could to get it right, if you will. But it still took about an hour because you're building the world at the same time, right?
Right.
So I would say if you did 3, you might end up, depending on how many players you have, where you're like, oh, okay, well, we've got about an hour to do an adventure, which is tough to cram stuff into, right?
Yeah.
So,
Jason tells me.
yeah. So you could, it might be a little less than that, but I find that the longer you go on, unless the players are getting faster and faster as they go through, it might speed up a bit. But one of the things that I also find in character gen is that the more you go, the more world building that's happening, the more players are finding connections between each other, right? So it actually doesn't necessarily get faster.
Gotcha.
Right, with people around the table. So you might want to make it 2 terms, right? It's also the thing I found really interesting that I'd never done before is it also meant after 1 term, the characters weren't very good at stuff, right? So
does that matter?
I think during the entire game, which I did not scrimp on die rolls, there was 1 success, and they failed every other die roll, which was awesome. Because suddenly it was like the best laid plans were just like, and I would say, you're gonna, like one of they said, we're gonna try to send this covert message to let them know that we're gonna help them, right? The resistance. I'm like, great. I want a comms role to make sure that and I said, like, the message will get through. The comms role is gonna be to obfuscate who's sending it, where it came from. I want there to be a streetwise role to try to get it to the right person, right? and then I want there to be a tactics roll to help them understand how you're going to help them. Your message will get through, but these things will give you a better chance of success. And everybody failed. So it was awesome. So your message got through, and the message they received in return was like,
I like ice cream.
They were like, okay, because they'd made it sound like, oh, we're attending a surprise party, right? And they were like, oh, we didn't know more people were coming. We'll see if there's seats at the table. And they're like, I don't know if that means they understood it or not. Shit, right? So it was really great. So those failures then led them to come up with a different, what they did on the ship solution than they would have if they would have succeeded those roles. So, and that's actually, I will say, something that that concept I stole from Jason, listening to Demigod's things, where you've said, look, you're going to make a roll. This roll is not determining whether you're successful or not. It's just determining the flavor of what goes on with it, right? And I was like, and I've never done that in a Traveler game. I'm like, oh, you try it. Oh, I failed. Okay, well, it didn't work. And I'm like, well, that really sucks, right? I'd rather have it succeed at a cost or so. I think it's a neat thing, too, about listening to and playing a lot of different styles of games is you can pull in things from like these different like PBTA games or different systems and go like, oh, I really like the concept of that mechanic. How do I use that in my game? So yeah, don't do 3 terms. You'll never get through. You'll never play the game.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Very cool. And I already asked you.
None of my players are here, so
that's okay.
Move
no worries.
on.
I have to add, I've always admired the Traveler sort of like background generation system and making your character. I always really loved that. I've always wished there was like a plug and play game prep system that you could take to any game system and like collaboratively build your world together and like your character relationships. And
that's not a thing.
Is there? Yeah. What are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of Decima by Golden Lasso Games.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, you use a tarot deck in order to create not only the world, but the relationships between the characters before you even start chucking the dice. This works for Savage Worlds, 5th edition, or Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Even Dungeons and Dragons.
Especially Dungeons and Dragons. I've actually used it for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. That's nice. I'm going to keep all the audio. You sign waivers, so I'm going to use it later. But thank you. Yeah. GoldenLassoGames.com. Anyway, other morning Saturday games.
I did one.
Yay! Tell us about it.
I did The Great American Novel by Christopher Gray.
I've never heard of it.
It's a little thing that I was working on. This time I did it raw, which means that I go by the rules as written.
I thought you were going to say naked. But God, that's great. I did it raw, baby.
Holy shit, I never thought of that.
Welcome to my Great American Novel. I've been working on it for a while.
That would actually up the ratings.
It's strip gan.
That's a great idea. I completely. Oh, anyway. So raw means rules as written, Bill. And
okay, fine.
The conceit of the game is that you're actually doing a game that is the Great American Novel. So that is an Americana game that is literary, that has realistic themes. And it was in Games on Demand, so that was sort of a way to play, without having to put the marketing on it, which is why I do things like Jaws to get people excited about playing a game about a novel. So this particular session, we ended up in the Great Depression, and we were playing a gang of bootleggers that were trying to go from New Mexico to Louisiana to bury their boss, who was killed in a shootout. And hilarity ensued. Actually, no, it's actually pretty serious for me.
Really,
yeah.
Every game is better when hilarity ensues, though.
And I think that Kadave was in that game. He wasn't in Jaws, though.
I was not. I got close, but I missed the mark. So I really loved the way we started that game, where we sat down at a table, none of us had any damn idea what even genre we were going to play. Chris told, and this is, I'm assuming, in the actual rules.
Yeah.
As soon as I get my fulfillment, I will know. But
you have the
wow.
No, I mean,
oofta.
It wasn't a thing. I'm just excited, and it's coming, and I'm gonna read it when it arrives. that's a thing. That's how that works. When you order something and it's gonna show up at your house, you have to wait until it
So
shows
it's
up at your
awesome to
house.
sit
Yes.
next door to your public.
Like-
It's the best.
So that's a thing. I'll read your game. I don't read his.
For the record, he's pointing to
Pointing at Dave
Dave.
77.
He apparently hid something secret in Bedlam Hall, and I haven't found it yet.
Oh.
But I have to really sit down. and
Fun?
read it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about you, sucker. That's right. No, anyway.
Oh, God, the Daves have started a
so I
war.
don't know if that like the method you did is in the rules.
I ran it. Rules was written, so yeah,
Okay,
it was pretty
yeah.
strict.
Oh, yeah. So,
I can tell the secret right now.
oh,
Yeah. So honestly, if I actually signed your book for Bedlam Hall, if I autographed it, yeah, you have a secret message in there that you can find.
Holy shit!
That's not telling us the secret. That's just telling us
No,
there
you
is a
just gotta
secret.
find it.
That's letting you know if there's a secret. If you look at
And
the
I've been
first
waiting on this
letter
for like
of
a-
every
like
sentence on
a
the
year
opening
and a
page, it
half
says
that's
"Dutchman
actually
from
there.
Mechabrunevision."
And yeah, I haven't told you.
He was drunk when he wrote it, but still, it's there.
Did you buy Bedlam Hall, Bill?
Fuck no. I mean, yeah. Heck yeah. No, actually, I might have.
I thought we were talking about the Great American Novel.
all right.
We
We're
were.
back. We're back. No. So
We were, but shockingly, Kazay hijacked a conversation.
that was my fault. That was my fault. I called him out.
What's in your pocket, Dave?
Oh,
That's a bird. Kind of.
No.
my seventh grade self is hurt.
So back to the Great American Novel.
The thing that I really loved was we sat down to play the game, and none of us had any idea we didn't know it was gonna be a Great Depression game. We didn't know there was gonna be a dead guy. We didn't know anything about what we were gonna do until Chris had us each player wrote down 3 things they might like to see in the game, like either thematically or an event or something happen. So people wrote down all kinds of things, and then we all got to put a check mark next to any idea we thought was a good idea, like something we thought was cool.
Is that just for mechanical? Was that your ideas, or like all the ideas came out and people check marked?
All the ideas
All
go
the
out.
ideas came out.
Oh,
and
very
then
cool. Okay,
Everybody
good.
got
Yeah,
to
yeah.
check mark.
And there's always a bell curve.
Yeah.
Right, sure, right. It's like when you're doing like creative brainstorming, right? People go up and like, I love those.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then we ended up with the Great Depression and murder as
Those were the things.
the starting points for the game, and then we're like. We talked about it a while, and we ended up making characters around this idea. And then, yeah, we ended up, like, it was a tragedy. Like, it was this family gang falling apart after the boss, patriarch, had died. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. Oh, blanket of thanks. But
I love con games like that because it's almost like it's easy to fall into the funny, but like we were talking about earlier when we were talking about the romance, like actual serious drama and like loss and like love feelings are hard to get in a con game.
And I know you're going to ask what I learned. I learned something significant on this one. There's a point in the game where you are following the hero's journey, and a move moves you into confronting the ordeal. And I've run this game a lot, and I always have a good idea what that is, and it's never what you think it is when you go into the game. But this game, I was really at a loss. In fact, I openly said at the table, I don't really know what the ordeal is. I do not believe that it's them being chased by the law, because that, of course, is what the setting is. They're obviously chased by the law. The Texas Rangers, as a matter of fact, which got a dynamite under them. That's the whole thing. Anyway, I knew that wasn't it because it wasn't strong enough and it wasn't literary enough, and it organically came out of the decisions of the players. And I think that was a really wonderful moment when I said, oh, the ordeal is the schism between the two different parties in this gang that have a completely different idea how things should turn out now that they don't have a patriarch. And that was the hill everybody died on, literally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I ended up making a slightly psychotic.
Slightly.
What?
Like literally, like the best way I could describe him would be
Sociopathic,
like
maybe.
Great Depression
my surprise face.
murder hobo.
Because hobo, sure.
No.
And why do they call it the Great Depression? It fucking sucked. Why is it? It wasn't great. It was the pretty crappy depression.
Great as in big.
Basically, he ended
Oh,
up sort of joining
makes
this
sense.
gang.
Thanks, Teach.
Because it was the first place that he could be a person. Like, it was the first place he felt comfortable. And he kind of followed a girl that he
liked a lot into the gang, but it was never a relationship. And the game ended for me like I finally got up the courage to walk across and say something to her, and then I got shot in the back of the head.
And his brains,
Oh!
his
Yeah.
brains and guts were all over her.
Like that was the ending of the game for me. And spoilers. And it was fantastic. Like I was like I
That's a great
Yeah.
fucking ending.
Right?
That's amazing.
Some of the engineering behind the game is that, well, a lot of the engineering, because it was the original design goal of the game, is you have a complete story when you're over. I love Fiasco. I love some of these story games, but some of them end incomplete. You don't know what happens to you, your characters. This game, you know, everything's tied up.
That's awesome. That's very cool. And it's epic because now I wasn't even in that game, and I will always remember how that game ended for you, Dave, because that's an amazing
awesome.
ending.
I know. I've always wanted to tell you that I. Oh shit! That's not good.
Bloodstains are so hard to get out of linen. I'm just telling you.
He did sort of deserve it, though.
Yeah. Oh no! I mean, like, it wasn't a shock that somebody would want to shoot me in the head. It was just, oh well, all right, and that's what, like, as soon as he, like, you get currency in the game that you can spend to assume total narrative control.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just narrative control over what's happening to your character, and that actually, Chris, at the beginning of the game brought that up. Like, this is a common problem I see. A lot of people are used to taking narrative control about the stuff around their character, but no, you suddenly become the master of the whole game world. Like, you can narrate NPCs doing stuff. You're, like, completely unrelated. Like, across town, an old lady walks out of a bank with a big wad of cash. Like, that might not even come back into the game, but it's happening now because you said so. Like, and after, like, we got better at that, it became a thing, and one of the other players spent his coin to have gone into a house and gotten a shotgun because I had killed his dad. And I didn't even know it was his dad at the time. It was a whole confusing tragedy thing. But then he just quietly came out of the house with the shotgun and walked up behind me, and that's good night. And it was great. It was super awesome.
So I have a question for Chris. So you've run this a couple times.
Once or twice.
Once or twice.
Lot.
Do you find that as players understand what the concept of the game is, right? And by that they build up, and I'll use that trust between each other as players. That takes a lot of trust. So like it's like, oh, yep, I understand that part of this game is like someone is taking complete narrative control, right? So the two things, like, one, do you find that people build that up over the course of play, and then two, do you prep them ahead of time for the fact, like, that means your character could get whacked?
Well, there are safety nets in the game.
Okay.
The game has a lot of safety tools, chief of which is you cannot control another character. So there's, even on the smallest moves, and there's a lot of PvP, as we would call it, but it's not really, because we're dealing with conflict and character interactions. So if me being mad at you is PvP, then it's PvP. But what it means is that you get incentivized for going along with somebody if they win. You don't have to.
Okay.
You never have to die. It's entirely your choice. And the game is called completing your character. You can do that. You can rise to a heroic end, or you can fall to a tragic fate. And there's a metric that tracks that. But you get to decide that. So yeah, I knew that somebody was going to shoot him. It was up to him if that happened. So there was narrative control, not of him, but of the scenario. I have the shotgun. I'm doing it. And by the way, is it okay?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of consent.
It
You
was
never
100%
lose control.
my choice to die at that moment. Like, it was not, well, that guy said he killed me, so I guess I'm dead. Well, fuck this game. I'm out.
This game sucks.
Like, meh. Well, I don't even have hit points. This is some bullshit. Like,
What is this character arc?
Right. Because I find that is an interesting, like a really interesting and powerful choice for characters to make. Dave ran a Savage Rifts game, and I had a character that I was trying some really weird experimental playing while engaging the chat room with, because I ran a crazy, and it was like, hey, everybody in the chat room, you're all the voices in my head, right? But there was one point in the story where it would have made perfect sense for my character to sacrifice himself to save another character. And the thing I found really interesting, Dave was like, oh, well, this is Savage Rifts, and everybody's got a lot of hit points, and you probably don't really need to do it, because people are going to probably survive. I'm like, oh, no, I think my character should die now, right? So I love games that give players the opportunity to say, you know what? this is the right thing for my character to do.
It's engineered. You are creating a story together, and so what happens in this case is that I can and will do this for the sake of the story. And the beautiful part is that your character can die in chapter 1 if you want. All that happens is now you're part of the GM committee, and we're all running the game together.
Right.
And because it's not about the characters, it's about the characters' interactions with each other and the story that creates.
Very nice. I love that discussion. I'm impressed. I love you all. All right.
We haven't had enough to drink.
No.
We'll get started.
Right?
That's
it's
so
okay.
true.
I've been making up for it. So
No!
it's cool. No, not
Have
so-
some. Try the wine.
Bottle's so empty.
Like, I just
Who drank that?
Cause you're like in fucking A Clockwork Orange. He's like, I'll try the wine.
All right.
Wine.
Is that it for Saturday morning games? People running Saturday morning games.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to Saturday afternoon games.
Oh, I did that as well.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We have many of them. Kadave.
Oh. I'm number 1. No.
Who
really
works for number 2?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, the very quick version of the story of my gaming today was Free League Games from Sweden, publishers of Tales from the Loop and Mutant Year Zero and several other awesome games. They announced just recently that they are going to be putting out an Alien universe. Aliens.
Good.
Yeah. Xenomorphs, that whole jazz. Colonial Marines. They're putting out an RPG based on that with their Year Zero engine. And this morning at 6 a.m., they said they were going to open up pre-orders. And when you pre-ordered it, you would get a PDF of a sample that you could play. And people could run it and give feedback and that kind of stuff about it. And I was super jazzed about this. I was like, I love the Alien universe. I want to make that a thing. So my alarm went off this morning at 5:55. And I rolled over and one eye plastered shut from drinking last night. I entered my credit card information on a website that hopefully was right.
Yes, excellent. Thank you for your credit card.
And then I got an email from them saying, thanks so much for pre-ordering. This is great. You're going to get your link to the PDF in the next couple days. And I went, oh, I wanted it right now.
And why did you want it right now, Dave?
Because I made the plan of I was going to get an RPG and I was going to run it at Games on Demand at 2 o'clock. So I had 8 hours to get my shit together. And then when that email came through, I was just adrift. I had not, like, literally, no, like, I went down and I met Bill for breakfast a little while later, and he's like, well,
what's wrong, Dave? You look adrift.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a whole reenactment thing.
It is.
It's like Unsolved Mysteries now. Like, and Robert Stack's going to walk in. It's going to be real scary.
I'll be the waitress. Wait, can I take your order? Come on.
No,
Please, we're talking
I'm
about
not
why my
having
friends
anything.
adrift, waitress.
I'm sorry.
I'll
I'd
have
like,
more
I'd
coffee,
like to
though.
charge you $40 for eggs.
Oh,
So-
that's excellent. Are they extra runny?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. I'll take them.
That's exactly what I
Too
wanted.
real.
Welcome to the Hilton.
So,
Shit just got real.
So,
Is the bar open yet?
No, the
My
bar,
friend Stork needs to know.
the bar doesn't open until 5 p.m.
What the hell?
so Bill then looked at me and he's like,
We're not better.
well, what's wrong with you? If you want to run a game, you have a tablet and all the PDFs ever. Just run something, dude. And I went, I got real whiny about
You
it.
did. You were like,
I got like,
I wanted to get
I
this
don't
one
really-
game and it was new and
yeah,
I was going to
I
run
don't-
it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't have any good ideas. I don't, what when I run?
I was like, man up, boy.
Yeah.
Run a game.
Yeah. So then that was in the back of my head, and then I went and I played this 9 a.m. Great American Novel game, and
By Christopher Gray.
yeah.
It's like fucking Beetlejuice, right? Like Great American Game by Christopher Gray. Just pops it.
Stop saying it.
And then
I
just
can't.
before we start that game, Chris looks at me and goes, well, if it's the Year Zero thing, like it's the same basic mechanics with Tales from the Loop. Like just use that mechanic and run a game in the Alien universe, dude. And I was like, oh, all right. And then I started in my head while we were playing that game, I'm running through like,
how will I convert these templates for children into Colonial Marines? Like
Dave's like super engaged. I know I'm playing your game, but I'm planning my game in the background.
Oh yeah.
That's
I
how
was
I'm gonna get
100%. That's why it was easy to be a psychotic, because I was like, oh, it's my turn. I kill that guy.
That's how I'm gonna get through the last 12 days of school.
Yeah.
Dave, one of the other players like to shoot your character in the back of the head. Yeah, whatever. I'm writing characters.
Yes. I need to die right now so I have time to plan. But then halfway through the game, I came to this like dawning epiphany moment of, oh no, I don't want to make Colonial Marines. I'm going to use Tales from the Loop and have everybody make children and play on LV-426, the colony from Aliens, right before shit hits the fan. So it's the immediately before the colony all dies. Yeah. So
Dave's like, oh, hi, by the way, I've drawn the biggest X card possible. You're all kids in mortal danger.
You learned about the shark.
Right. So I sat down and I sort of planned it, and I ran up to the business center and I printed out character sheets, and then I was as ready as I'd ever be, and I was super terrified going into this game of really two things. The first being a little bit about what you were talking about before, of if you're playing in a game when you know everyone here is going to die, how's that going to affect the story? And it might go great, or it might go very badly. People are like, well, it doesn't matter what we do.
Well, especially when they're playing kids.
Exactly. And then the other thing I was just deathly afraid of was getting the tone right for being horrifying for kids and not have it be 4 hours of xenomorphs murdering children. Like, that's not what game anybody wants to play. So, well, no, there's somebody out there.
I got people out there like, well, I don't know. That sounds pretty good to me, actually.
So I decided to go with... Nope. One time. So I decided to go with the Jaws idea of, I don't want to let these kids ever actually meet the xenomorph. I want them to see what it's doing and see what's happening and get as close as possible without being in the room with it.
Like Santa.
Yeah, like just like Santa Claus.
Yeah,
yes.
it's basically the same.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ho, ho, ho.
You better watch out.
Don't fucking
You
call
better
me
not
that.
cry.
Yeah.
Don't you fucking pout, and I'll tell you why.
Well, I do have a technical question for you, because in Tales from the Loop, the kids can't die. They can take on conditions, and the worst one is broken. But they can heal from that. So how'd you handle that?
We never got that far into conditions, actually. But my plan was, if somebody got to broken, they would get dragged off to the nest. It would be like, they're not dead yet, but now they're encased in horrible goo and waiting to die.
Wait, why am I laughing?
Yeah.
Because you're fucked up.
So we never got that far. And in fact, I also, at the beginning of the game, I made a little bit of a timing error. When I've run Tales from the Loop at cons, I've supplied pre-gen characters. So I already knew all the relationships between every character, and I knew who did what and who had what, all the character details. But this time, since I didn't have time to actually do that, we just did Character Gen Live, and it took about an hour. So it ate up about an hour of that 4-hour game slot, and then I started the game, and after about 30 minutes, I was like, oh no, I got to speed this shit up. I don't have that extra hour to sort of slowly build the tension of what's going on. But
So you went to write to season 8 of Game of Thrones then? You're like I don't really have the time to build the drag tension. I'm just gonna write some shit.
Yeah.
Great. Good. All right.
Yeah. But
not to throw a controversial topic into the room, but go ahead. Anyway.
nah, I don't care anymore. It's over. So excuse me. So we started the game, and one of the characters in his relationship web had decided that his dad had been missing for a few months. And I thought, well, yeah, on a planet where people are going out and surveying and looking for a big find to make money for their family, he went on an unauthorized trip out there to search for a big score of mineral rights.
but he was the first guy that found the eggs. So we got to the point where I had a medevac arrive, guy encased with a face hugger on his head, and it was this guy's dad. And so the kids were like, what do I do about that? And I've got a couple players here, and I'd like them to talk about their experience at the table, but I had a super blast doing this.
Nice, very
like I said, I walked in with a little bit of terror, and then I ended up having a great time.
Awesome.
So that's really the best situation you can ask for.
And as someone who's run a campaign in Tales from the Loop, how did you think it translated to a much darker? Because there's a little bit of darkness in Tales from the Loop, but not this level.
Yeah, not that kind of. Yeah, I really liked it. Like, I liked seeing how scary we could get without having it be kids getting murdered. Like that, there's a line there that I didn't want to get to, but how close can we get to that level of terror? Like, oh, well, yeah, you see all of the wreckage of this xenomorph tearing some shit up. Like, people are getting eaten, and you're watching it on a security cam.
You had kids dragged to the nest.
No, we didn't get that far.
That didn't actually happen.
That was hypothetical.
So I'm going to disagree. Aaron, this is Aaron again. Still not famous.
You are now.
But
famous.
I also want to say that I love the back of your head too, Aaron. Just to let you know. There's a
of
lot of good back of the head going on here.
Back of the head.
I redid
So-
my ponytail for you.
I will also.
Yeah, that's good. Who did the ponytail for you?
I did.
You did?
I redid
Wow.
it for you.
For me? Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you're just listening along, folks who come up to chat with us sit in front of us. On the
Yeah,
dais.
it's not like I'm creepily intentionally behind people.
Yeah.
It's just
This
the way
time.
things are staged. This time.
It's like 20% that.
Right.
But 80% they're sitting lower and in front of us.
Oh.
oh,
so
yes.
The
Go on.
the other thing I want to say really fast is I was very excited to have 2 first-time con visitor listeners that got to play in this game. And that really jazzed me up. I was very excited because I love it when people come to visit.
Heck yeah.
So my first disagreement and my only disagreement is that you claim it was a mistake to have us do character creation, and that took up an hour. And what happened during that was we all just unleashed our 80s kids' traumas all over the table. Like, we had the conversation. There was X card out there. We all looked at it and we were like, nah, brah. It's cool. We're just gonna make it real. And so there was an abusive father, like fighting with a mother who was a heavy drinker, and there was a mother who was cheating on the father, and it was just a network of terror before we really hit the ground.
Typical small-town Americana.
Sure.
Right. And which the colony on that planet, is like 450 people, whatever. Like, it's gonna be drama. And so it was super drama when we hit the floor. And you did a great job of being like, okay, well, you guys need to get rolling. Let's do some stuff. And so we were like, okay, let's do some stuff. And then dude's dad showed up, and we were like, oh, that's real. Okay.
That happened.
So we're going from here, and it's going to get ugly. All right. So we had the discussion in the beginning. We could get face hugged. We could get, put in a vat or whatever, or a chrysalis. Super sweet. And so that was in my head the whole time. And also the whole time I was like, maybe we're going to get away. Like, maybe this is an unreported part of the experience. No. It was a game that I wish we recorded just so I could listen to it again. Like, unadulterated. Like, I don't remember it as well as I would love to listen to it again. It was super great. When you were talking about tone, you rode that line perfectly between what was going to happen to these kids, how are they interacting with each other, and what is the danger. Like, dangers were all on TV screens, and we were always my character was constantly hacking into stuff and trying to protect all of the other kids from the terror that we were looking at. And I was like, no, it's fine, everything's fine, I don't know what you're talking about. So, and that was picked up on by everybody. So, like, in the genre of an Aliens movie, there's always the corporate man.
Yeah.
So that was
Paul
me.
Reiser?
Yeah.
It was
but like
child
a little
Paul
kid,
Reiser.
right? But like a little kid who just wanted to be cool. Like,
Yeah.
he was the popular kid, but he clearly was not popular.
Like Paul Reiser.
Right. So yeah. So that was us. That was great.
Very cool. And we welcome Heavy Metal Jess back to the stage.
That's weird and awesome both at the same time.
Just
So-
pull
It
that,
never
just
gets
pull that
less
little
weird.
snippet of audio and just have it be like on your phone or whatever.
Yeah.
I
Like-
should have it play when I come into the office.
Oh hell yeah! When you walk in the office,
Yeah.
like when you join a meeting
Geo-fenced?
over video conference,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Perfect.
We need one really good audio of it. So on the count of 3, okay,
All right.
ready? 1, 2, 3.
Can you imagine somebody the first time they call, Happy Jacks, I heard about that. I think I'll watch this podcast. What the fuck was that? And how do I get it?
Yeah, I mean, Jess said it. That was weird and awesome. That's our brand.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think I've been listening to the show
accurate.
so long?
Yeah.
It's only kinky the first time.
Nah.
Is it Jenka Curious? I mean,
Broke Jim.
We just broke Jim. Bye-bye, Jim. Bye-bye, Jim.
Okay, so all the games I've played, because I've played quite a few, I tried really hard to like stretch outside of my comfort zone in character creation, but then there were papers put on the table, and one of them said rocker, and I was like, okay. So I played the rocker chick who walked around in corpse paint the entire game, and it was
As a 13-year-old.
as a 13-year-old. So think about like early Norwegian black metal, and I feel like I did the system justice in that way. But it was really great, and I think one of the things that really made the tension happen, one was everyone who played the game was familiar with the source material in a good way, though. Like, we weren't expecting it to follow exactly, but we knew enough about it to build tension internally for ourselves, anticipating certain story beats. So it kind of was a good artificial tension builder. And then another thing that really worked is those moments of realism with the characters' backstories, where there was almost more fright and tension when we ended up encountering the abusive dad in an elevator than when we saw the xenomorph behind some lighting fixtures. So we were actually a little more afraid to confront him than to confront the monster, which I think really speaks well to the 80s teenage kid movie. And the reason we never ended up having anybody end up broken is because we all rallied with each other, and we had like these great little moments of like a Stand By Me kind of thing, where kids were encouraging the other kids to like move past their shortcomings. So it was kind of a really deep, interesting game for kids confronting aliens. It was great.
And that was all you guys.
that sounds
was
fucking
rad.
amazing. Well done.
Like I could not ask for a better way to spend a half hour prepping.
Nice.
I think that's a huge thing as GMs that come and run things at cons. In fact, when Elspeth and I were talking like, oh, we're going to be coming back, we're actually like moving back to the U.S. that weekend, right? And immediately, woo, U.S. And it was really funny because there was the call for like, hey, Kimmy was like, we need people to run games, and Elspeth was like, oh, you're going to run a game, right? And I'm like, I hadn't planned on it because we're moving our lives, but I guess I am. Is how much I think, especially at cons, players give you, because everyone's here for like, I'm getting my maximum gain on in like 3 days, right? So when they come into a session, they're like, this is going to be 4 hours of just distilled fucking awesomeness, right? As a GM, it's like I get so much energy to feed off on that. It just makes it like a fabulous experience. So for anybody who has thought about GMing at a con, they're like, oh, well, I don't know. How do I do it? How do I fit in 4 hours? Just go for it, right? You'll get so much back from your players. It's incredible.
Yeah. So now, Dave, your turn for the golden question. Like, what did you learn from running this awesome game that you made up by yourself?
Other than listening to Christopher Gray.
Yes. The author of Great American Novel.
The Great American Novel.
Yeah. No, I.
Why does it feel like there's a battle between Christopher Gray and Dave Kazay for amount
Dave
of
brought it,
times
man. I'm just
they
responding
can,
and
like,
reacting.
Yeah. It's like a tally board at the end.
like
All right.
tennis back and forth.
All right. I think.
I'm just saying one of our stretch goals.
We can't hear you talking to the mic.
I'm just saying one of our stretch goals for a town called Malice, which just recently closed, was indeed a alien terrorist called Station to Station, might I add, which was available and will be available through Backer Kit.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right.
That's the first time anyone's ever cheered for Backer Kit.
And somewhere in the Kickstarter universe, an angel got their wings.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Answer the question.
So I think the thing that I learned is I want to try and stretch more systems outside their box. Like that's the thing that fascinated me the most about this is like taking something that's pure and innocent 80s kids on an adventure and turning it into, oh shit. Like this is gonna go bad.
That should be the name of it. Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Who made this wine?
I gotta get
Oh
that.
shit.
I gotta get that state senator from The Wire to.
We will puke no wine.
But yeah, I don't know what's coming next, but I'm gonna go home and think about what I can fuck up next.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Other Saturday afternoon games.
Yeah, I ran a game.
Yay! What game did you run, Jason?
Well, there's a funny story around that, actually. So I brought the PBTA Star Wars hack that I really love. Andrew Medeiros put that out. It's like my favorite version of a Star Wars RPG.
Is that the one that you're running tomorrow morning
It
at
is.
9 a.m.?
Called? That's Star Wars. I think you find it as Omega World because he doesn't want to get sued by the mouse. But
the evil mouse.
I had Star Wars, plenty of scenarios I could do for Star Wars, and then I also have the game Demigods that I wrote.
Is that going to be a Kickstarter?
Our Kickstarter launches next month.
Yeah!
But the best part for me in just setting up the game was I pitched. I said, "Hey, I have the Star Wars PBTA. I have Demigods that I wrote, so I can take 4 players." And that's kind of how Games on Demand works: is you pitch a game and you go over and wait for people to come to you and just huddle in the corner and hope that someone comes to you.
That sounds like my college dating life.
I was going to say like middle school dances.
Several of the first guys who came over was like, "Yeah, the Star Wars thing sounds cool. Let's play Star Wars. Rad." So we eventually sat down and we had 4 like 30 to 40 something dudes.
What are you saying?
And one 13-year-old girl. No joke. She was amazing.
Steady,
But
Bill.
It was like
Shut up.
Most of these guys were like, "Yeah, so could we play Star Wars?" And she was like, "So I really love Percy Jackson, and your Demigods thing sounds really cool." And every dude melted. And we all went, "We're playing Demigods."
I'm going to play. Oh, okay. All right.
It was awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
What playbook did she get?
She got the Arcane. And it was like her first choice. Like she was super excited.
Nice.
So I was really glad that she got to do something that was really fun for her. And we built for the first time. I had two players pick the same god parent. We had 2 children of Hades, which was a great fun thing.
I love James Woods.
Deep cuts.
That makes one of you.
And we had let's see, I can't remember everyone, but there's like half the cast is here. So I imagine they'll want to. Hopefully they'll come up and say something and save me. But we ended up. There was a mysterious. Suddenly it was thunderstorming in L.A., which is not a thing that happens. And how dare you?
That is so timely of you,
Yeah.
Jason.
And it turns out that's what happens when storm giants wrestle. And they had to go figure out what was going on.
Have you run Demigods for someone that young before?
Yes, but it was usually several people in the roughly in the same age
group?
range. And this fearless young lady was just like, we're gonna do this. And
That's awesome.
eat it. I mean, no, she was actually super nice, but just no fear in the face of all these old dudes. Like, you guys aren't that old, but
Yeah, 30 to
I'm
40
very
old. Fuck you.
Yeah.
To
Can
a
you imagine?
13-year-old, that's a lot.
Yeah. Can you imagine being 40 years old? Like, that's just incredible, right? Like,
Shut up.
I'm in favor of her Amazon energy. All right,
Yeah.
so players, come up here.
And yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen the back of your head. I haven't seen the back of your head yet, but I'm gonna like it. Yeah, we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Who are you and what makes you famous?
My name is Eli, and Kimmy made me famous. I don't know. Yeah, it was super great, dude. Like, her enthusiasm to want to play demigods was like, we totally got to play demigods because, I mean, Star Wars is Star Wars.
Eat it. Eat the mic.
I'm not trying to. Yeah, but it was super contagious, and it was a great game. This is the second time I've actually played PBTA, and both times have been with Jason, so I'm super lucky.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah.
Well, as far as you know.
Oh,
It's my second time being held prisoner by the same guard, and he's really cool.
But yeah, it was really fun. It was really creative. We all had like our niche things to do, and we did them well. Yeah.
Which playbook did you use?
The tree person.
The Verdant.
Yes. Yeah, it was super cool because like I think like I normally play like killy characters, and I was totally like, oh, I want to be the nice guy for once. I was totally nice.
Were you a killy tree or a nice
I
tree?
was a super nice tree.
Oh.
And
Until.
I never killed him. So we got to fight the head, what was he, giant?
Yeah, it was a big old storm giant.
And then so I used my super duper power and got him with a whole bunch of vines, and then I took him to my little garden, special garden, and basically said, if you don't let us go, you're not going to leave here. So
That's not a euphemism.
It's not.
He got him with the vines and took him to my special garden. And I told him he couldn't leave.
You could do that in Demigods, written by Jason Mills, coming out in Kickstarter June 2019.
Ding! Mark on the board. Thank you, Eli. Woo! The Verdant is actually a super killy playbook. If you,
It can swing either way. You
Yeah.
can be like kind of a healer or like vicious animalistic fighter. Like it can
very
be
cool.
really fun either way.
So like Groot would be in the
Yeah,
Verdant.
that's exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Awesome. And what did you learn from running this game today?
I learned that I still like my game.
Yay!
Another game designer said to me early on, like a year into playtesting, was like, "Oh, you'll know your game's done when you hate it." And I was like, "Oh, I hope that doesn't happen." And now it's been almost 2 years since I started working on it, and I still love it, and that's exciting for me. I'm like, oh, good, it doesn't suck, or at least I like it. So I don't know, whatever.
I love your game very much.
Oh, thanks.
Yay! Who are you, and what makes you famous? I'm happy to see you too, by the way.
I'm Burke from the forums. And oh, that's really you're right.
Jess is like, oh, it's awesome, isn't it? It's fantastic. I'm gonna fucking post again. That was cool.
The unspeakable power.
I played in Jason's game. It was super fun with the guys and the adorable 13-year-old who was way better than all of us. And it was super fun because it was the first time I played Demigods, but I've heard all of your guys' APs and stuff, and I'm actually gonna be playing a campaign in it, which I'm really excited about, or like running a campaign, so it should be cool. But it was really interesting playing in it because none of us were really super fighty. And so it was this really interesting situation where it was like, well, are we going to do that? Or are we going to just try to talk our way out? But none of us could really talk either. So it was...
That's an interesting statement because something like 4 out of the 5 players chose to have an epic weapon. And I'm listening to them pick their stuff. I'm like, oh, cool. They probably want to fight some big monsters. Giants. How about giants? They all have epic weapons. I bet they want to use them. Nah, we'll talk our way out.
We didn't actually swing a weapon once.
That's correct.
Yeah. It was really bizarre.
That's correct, Bob.
It was super fun though. If I could talk about the game right before that, because it was like 3/4 Happy Jacks people. So my con experience so far has been like really mixed, like groups. Like you sit down, you play with some people, and like there's some good people, some bad people. It's kind of a mix, right?
I'm right here.
But my first game this morning was with Jess and Jason and Gene and one other person I didn't know, and it was truly one of the best games I've ever played in. Like everybody was 100% in. Everybody was super into it, and I hate adversarial games in general, like PvP or whatever. But this game we played, the Crown, the Sword, and the Power.
Unspeakable Power.
Unspeakable Power. Holy hell, that game was wacko. But it was so much fun, and it was great, and no one took it like to heart, and it was a badass game. We had an absolute hoot doing it. Awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. And one other thing I want to say. Dave Kazay's game, with Dave in yellow, I was at the table next to him. And I was more involved in his game than my game. Yeah. Like, no, it was really funny. He was like all over the place. It was great.
I have been across the room from a Dave Kazay game. Yeah. My first game at my first con ever was at a table caddy corner from a Dave Kazay game. And I will remember it forever. His game, not the game I was in.
And your takeaway was that you want to be in a Dave Kazay game, right? Yeah, because that was my takeaway. So anyway, that was it.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really funny. I remember like the first con I met Kazay at, it's the Dave Kazay podcast, and I played in a game, and I came back and I told Stu, I'm like, oh, holy shit, there's this guy you got to talk to. I just played his game, like, I don't know, he's got some like bullshit company, he's selling some stuff. But oh my God, he is an amazing GM. You got to talk to this guy. Like, and I think I dragged your ass to, don't touch me. I drive, well, okay, touch me from behind.
He's observing you from the rear.
Tell me how my hair is too, because that's important. Oh, that feels nice. And I think that's the one thing that I do want to throw out as from a standpoint of pure energy at a table from a GM, like you are number one on the charts, my friend. Because I almost feel like it's bad when we like have to like, no, you're on a podcast, sit down. You have to stay on the camera 30% of the time.
And I'm the asshole who has to do that to
holy
him all
crap.
the time.
So when I make the spreadsheet to figure out what rooms to assign to what games, I never had the GM name on the sheet because it was fairly irrelevant until Dave came on as a regular GM. And then I found it very important to be able to know who's running what, because I'm never going to put Dave. I had a guy with a hearing aid running games at this convention. There was no way I was going to put Dave in the same.
Shut up. We love you, Dave.
Yeah, we love
Just sit down.
So, speaking of which, did you all the things? Did you want to talk anymore?
Do you want to talk about your Kickstarter coming up anymore?
Hey, you got a Kickstarter? Oh, yeah. So the game Demigods by Jason Mills, kickstarting in mid-June.
Yeah.
2019.
And they can go to Demigods PBTA.
Yeah. Actually, for real, demigodspbta.com is where you can go like grab the newsletter and download the beta material.
Oh, you have a mailing list?
Yeah.
Who told you to get that?
You did.
Yes, I
Dave
did.
Kazay.
God damn it.
All right.
Oh yeah, the art. I got the proofs for the cover today, which I'm not going to put online yet. But if you're here at the con, come find me.
And who's doing your cover, Jason?
Minerva Fox, aka at Blue Troller, Blue Troller in our forums and in the chat. It's just a rad partnership. She's a wizard.
Oh, yeah, it's
the
amazing.
Best. It's so good. I'm very partial to it. All right. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. So this afternoon I played in a game. It was run by this guy. I don't know if you've heard of him. We've talked about him for like
What was the
a lot.
game?
The game was Spirit of 77
Yeah.
by Dave
Oh,
Kazay.
that old dead horse.
Is that the one by Dave Kazay at Monkey Fun Games?
I
It
hate you
is.
so bad, Roper.
Monkey Fun
But
Studios,
it's actually,
Mr. Bell's.
it's actually the first time I've gotten to play in Spirit of 77.
That's not true.
No?
No, your first game was Masterpiece 77 because you.
Right, but that's different than Spirit of 77.
It's got that 77 thing in the title, so it's part of his like bullshit franchise. Just go with it.
Hey!
I was accurate. That is more important than anything else.
True.
Ready to work? Fine. There you go. Not all of us. God.
No, but this like I've played like a lot of games. I played Masterpiece 77. I played a lot of different games.
Laughing at that.
It's okay.
You played in Demigods by Jason Mills. You played a lot of PBTA games.
A lot of PBTA. But this is the first time I played in like your original game, like Spirit of 77, and it was really fun. So
Why do you sound surprised?
I like the shock in that. That was great.
Well, okay. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like I don't know.
Janine, do you hear this? Do you hear the shit I'm getting from my quote-unquote friends?
No,
My wife ain't even paying attention to any
Is
of
this?
this.
Wait, are we gonna talk about Dave's game?
Yeah.
Right now? Okay, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Okay.
Hey!
No, I gotta go sometime.
I've lost control. It's spinning out. Okay.
And
No,
so's
because
Bill. What the hell?
Masterpiece 77 like is in my wheelhouse because I'm a nerd and like Masterpiece Theater and all those things, Shakespeare, all that shit is like my wheelhouse. The actual 70s are not my wheelhouse. So I was a little nervous about playing it, but I knew that like Elspeth was playing, so I'm like, okay, I have a friend who will whisper the things and the secrets of the 70s into my ear. But
Super sounds of the 70s.
To be fair, Kimmy is much younger than we are and was not born in the 70s.
I was not born in the 70s. Yeah, I was born later. But it was really cool because playing it, you could very clearly see the inspiration of Apocalypse World, which I have played a lot of, and like the clear lines between the two, but also you've done a really amazing job of, like we were talking about earlier, about naming the moves in a very evocative way that like clearly made each of the playbooks like playable.
We're talking about Spirit of 77.
So, like, I sat down and I didn't have to know anything about the 70s. Like, I sat down and I was the all-star vigilante. It's like, boom, I was able to step into that. It didn't matter that I wasn't able to, like, name characters off of TV shows from the 70s or something, but, like, I knew exactly what that character was and what it would be, even without that reference. Like, and it was really fun to just kind of, like, step into that really cool role and have a Russian accent.
One thing I love about Dave Kaze's games is that his ability to convey tone through the literature, and that's something I aspire to. You read I'm serious. You read one of these games and you know everything you need to do as a game master and also as a player. The playbooks and the game master sections are written impeccably. And the Spirit of 77 is an example. Bedlam Hall's an example. So is Malice.
Shut up and take the compliments, Kaze.
Oh, he's taking his wallet and paying. Hey, I said nice things too. Where's my money? All right. But first, I really want to hear. First, I want to hear you kind of run, because you were running a new scenario that you'd written.
Yes, I was.
So you tell me a little bit about it without ruining it?
It
like
was double
spoiling
feature number 6, Meanwhile Back in the Ranch, that will be available through Drive-Thru RPG.
All right, I'm really
Right.
sorry about all the ads in the show. It was not
I'm
intentional.
trying to sell it, honey. JD, I'm trying to sell the game right there.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about it other than where to find it?
Well, Spirit of 77.
No,
might I
the
add.
scenario thing.
It's a PB. I'm sorry. So, yes. So, we did. Well, you know what? I'm going to let one. Hey, we have one of the players right there that was actually part of the Meanwhile Back in the Ranch right there. Come on over.
So we were in Arizona. Was it New Mexico? Oh, okay. They're the same.
Honey, this is paying for the hotel room. Let them talk.
What's your name and what makes you famous?
My name is Alex, and I've tried very hard not to be famous my whole life.
There you go.
Tried to avoid it.
You've lost the game.
Fair enough. Okay. So yeah, I was a kind of a combination of a BJ and the Bear and a Smokey and the Bandit type character. I was
the name
of
of your
driver.
monkey companion?
Oh, I had a monkey named Panda. I had a trunk monkey. So I was driving a Cadillac because we needed to have enough room for all of the players and all of their NPC baggage, which
With
there
a
was a
moonroof.
lot.
Yeah.
And so we were driving through Las Vegas, and then, unfortunately, the thing that I'm sorry. Like
Actually,
you do.
you were in Price is Right, New Mexico.
Price is Right, New Mexico. Okay, and we immediately the problem that occurred to stop us there was my car ran out of gas. So that became, as the driver, something of a little bit of a challenge to be able to navigate. But then I also had the well-stocked trunk, which was just kind of GM Fiat. You've got anything that you really need in there, and so at some point. I think I had like cough medicine, and I had Dimetap, and I had
Sucrets.
Yeah, Sucrets, and I had a Geiger counter, and I had. Not to give away spoilers, but you need a Geiger counter in that particular mission.
That one you did because Prospector Al glowed in the dark. Glowed in the dark. Glue
Yes.
in the dark.
Glue in the dark. Yes.
Prospector Al's just
Glow ad.
Blow on it. Walk it off, son.
Right. Yeah. But it worked out really well, and we had quite a lot of fun. It was the first time I've ever actually played a PBTA game, and picked it up right away.
Well, I mean, what do you think? It's all the rage. It's what the kids are playing.
That's what I hear. That's the word of the street. No, it was an enjoyable game, and the mechanic was dead simple. And if it wasn't for a guy who was the kung fu rocker who apparently was the bard of our group and gave extra dice, I would not have succeeded on a single roll that I made. So, yay for that.
Hey, Bill, what did Elspeth think of the game she played in?
She liked it.
Good.
No, she came back. She's like, oh my God, I haven't played in so long because we've been isolated in the Queen's country from playing. By order of the Queen, you expatriates who be out there in Chiswick. Hello. No, but she definitely came back. She was like, oh, that was so fantastic. It was really fun. It was interesting. She played a character that was very off type for her. And so she felt it took her like a little while to get into it. But when she did, she was like, oh, I was totally in. And then this crazy unexpected stuff started happening with some kind of like automaton cereal salesman. And I think anytime, especially Elspeth comes back from a game and says, I'm now going to tell you about something that left an impression on me, something must have gone right. So
It was very weird because I said to Elspeth, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Elspeth is Bill's wife, and a fine singer, might add.
Excellent.
She said to me, I'm going to be in your game. And I said, what not stereotype, but what archetype do you want to play in the game? She goes, well, I really want to play Cher. And I thought, okay, well, we have that for you. And she realized that Cher's more of a honeypot character than a singer or a rocker. And it was very interesting because it really, she did things in game that I wasn't quite sure she would do, but she had no problem losing her top at one point.
Goddamn right! I mean, she's very much into the role play.
loud.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
So loud.
Oh, dude. I like to peek the board once a show. And that was it.
I hate you.
She's wearing headphones, man.
Peek the damn conference room.
So no, if she came back and I'm like, how'd the game go? She's like, oh, well, I took my top off. I'm like, that's great, honey, because the stream needs more viewers. Yeah, no, it was great. She was like, yeah, I had two moves. So one was taking my top off, and the other one was then grabbing someone, looking in the eyes while my top was off. And I'm like, I love you, baby. And I changed their world. I'm like, I'm sure you did.
Nice.
So
Very good.
I can't hold it in any longer. Was it?
Hello.
Was it? Oh yeah. It's happening. Was the automaton a vendor of dried breakfast greens, or was it a automaton that tried to sell things compulsively across America?
You're gonna have to watch or listen and find out.
Where can you watch that, Kimmy?
You can find that on youtube.com/happyjacksrpg, or if you go to happyjacksrpg.com/YouTube, either one.
It's not on Twitch?
It'll be on Twitch, but it's on YouTube forever. Twitch, it's on for like 60 days or something. So I'm gonna give the URL that will be good forever. That's marketing.
So if you're a part of a far future archaeological dig that finds this podcast,
I'm sorry.
it's on YouTube.
Please remember me for the years of working with children that I did and my educating and my master's degree. Don't remember me for this. Okay, we can keep going.
Now I love the idea of a future based on Happy Jacks. Like, that's the last thing It's like the Wild Stallions of yeah.
I know what my next PBTA game is now. You could play the Bill, you could play the Kazay, you could play the Kimmy.
Oh yeah. You can play the Bill. What is the snark stat? I don't quite understand.
Well, if you look over on the Kimmy sheet, it's the one that's really high.
I think the Kimmy is what we call the MC in that game.
And on that note, was there anything else you wanted to add to this, Kimmy? He says, like, finishing everything up there.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? All good. Okay. No, I had a great time playing this game. It was really fun. I liked the mix of all the different playbooks and the cool, like, in the middle of nowhere kind of ghost town scenario that you did. And it's very clear, like, we only, like, barely scratched the surface of this very in-depth story that Dave has made. So if you end up playing this, it's deep, man, and there's all these connections.
There you go, Roper, in your face.
Okay.
As always, I always like to point out whenever I'm on the panel that I want to thank always Jim Sandoval, who has always treated Monkey Fun Studios very, very well in their support when we're doing it. We love you, Jim, and we always want to say that.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jim.
We love you, Jim. Jim's been waiting very patiently.
But you can eat a dick.
Well, if you had one, I would.
Whoa!
Whoa,
Now this
moment's on!
It's on. He's whipping it out.
So loud.
All right.
Sorry, I won't do that again, Kim.
I got very excited. You can talk.
Okay.
All of a sudden, about the dark presence behind me. It's like,
Jeez, dark presence. All right. So, anyways, I knew that we were closing down, but what I wanted to say, and I wanted to put on camera and tell everybody here and whoever is listening, that Strategicon is incredibly grateful to the Happy Jacks group for not only providing us with quality entertainment for so many years via the podcast and via the games that they run here. And I think that my department would be empty, hollow, and nowhere near what it is without them, and I appreciate them.
It would be more sober.
And sobriety does not have its merits here. But I just wanted to say that I love them all, and I love you guys. Everybody that's listening that can't maybe come over to the convention and enjoy it this way. And thanks so much for being such a great part of a great RPG community that I'm very, very proud of being a part of.
Oh.
We love you too. Yeah, and if you're out there and you're thinking about it, Strategicon does 3 conventions a year on the 3-day weekends, and it's awesome. And you should take everyone's example, Heavy Metal Jess and Verk and everybody, and make your way to one at some point. And it's super fun to get drunk with you and hang out and play games. It's very fun. So, are we set?
Are
we still on mute?
yeah, we're still
No,
on mute.
you're not on mute anymore.
Well then, let's get started.
I've got something to say.
I have a lot of things to say.
All right, so we're going to go drink more and play more games.
Yes!
And we love you all, and we will see you later. Thank you, and good night. Woo!
Masters of
Happy Jacks RPG Podcast.
Stu can't ride a